We will now continue to part 2 of this presentation. It's important to follow a few guidelines when installing sod. First, laying the first line of sod in a straight line will minimize the number of cuts required to fit the sod in the planting area. The following rows should be staggered in a brick-like pattern. This will prevent erosion below seams and will hold the sod in place. Sod should be pushed tightly together, as sod often shrinks following installation. On slopes, lay sod perpendicular to the direction of the slope and consider using sod staples to hold the turf in place. Sod pieces can be cut with a knife, flat shovel, or special tools made for cutting sod. This picture shows an example of sod laid in a brick-like pattern on a sloped roadside. Note the perpendicular direction of the sod to the slope and the staggering of sod seams. Sod should only be installed on prepared soil, not used to cover up grass, rocks, or other debris. Care should be taken to avoid stretching sod pieces to fit, as they will simply shrink to the original size. If significant soil compaction is created throughout the construction process, this should be alleviated through tillage or aeration prior to sodding. Sod should be installed within 24 to 48 hours of harvest. Storage times can be extended beyond this during cool spring and fall times, and reduced during summer heat. Regarding post-sodding care, if lightweight hand rollers are available, they can be utilized for smaller urban roadsides to remove air pockets in the sod and firm it up with the soil. Rolling may be impractical for large roadside sodding projects unless lightweight equipment is available that won't shift the sod or create ruts. The sod should be irrigated immediately after it's laid. Be sure that moisture passes through the sod and into the soil to a depth of roughly 6 inches, which can be assessed by peeling a piece of sod back and digging slightly into the soil with a small shovel or soil probe. New sod will require supplemental irrigation for at least the first 30 days, and irrigation programs for sod are discussed in greater length in Module 7. Outlined here is an example of an irrigation program for Kentucky bluegrass sod planted in late May or early June. Please take a moment to review this table. Precipitation amounts should be subtracted from the irrigation requirement, as this scenario assumes no rainfall. Generally, new sod should receive 0.175 inch of moisture daily for the first 10 days and 1 inch per week for days 11 through 30. Specialty sod, such as MNST12, might require a longer irrigation requirement, up to 60 days, depending on the time of year. With proper soil preparation and irrigation, sod will begin to root after 7 to 14 days. You can test this by lightly pulling up on a strip of sod. If the sod hasn't started to root into the underlying soil after 2 to 3 weeks, consider possible causes such as time of year, watering program, fertilization, and difference in soil type from sod to site. Make the proper adjustments as necessary. Mowing can take place once the sod is rooted and begins to grow. This could take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. This picture shows an example of sod planted on a soil with a poor infiltration rate and irrigation applied too quickly, as you can see by the standing water at the soil-sod interface. This sod will have difficulty establishing in this situation. Prior to sodding, the soil could have been amended with organic matter, such as compost, to improve the infiltration rate and oxygen capacity. Post-sodding, irrigation should be slow and somewhat frequent to encourage rooting into the underlying soil. Different species of turfgrass have different mechanisms to survive drought situations. Kentucky bluegrass, the predominant species planted as sod on roadsides in northern climates, survives drought by going dormant. This particular species exhibits very good dormancy characteristics, and regrowth from crown will often occur during drought situations or improper watering. Kentucky bluegrass sod has very good dormancy mechanisms, and proper watering during establishment will always improve the chance of later drought recovery. Vine fescues, on the other hand, use very little water during drought, but they do not have the ability to go dormant as well as Kentucky bluegrass. Failure of fine fescue sod is common if improperly irrigated and can dramatically reduce recovery and establishment. This picture is an example of sod quality following a drought period. Note the live Kentucky bluegrass plants that survived by going dormant, while the fine fescue did not recover. Fine fescues are very drought tolerant once established, but damage from a lack of moisture can often occur prior to establishment. The picture on the slide is an example of sod composed primarily of fine fescues that was improperly watered during the establishment period. This fine fescue will not recover. Vehicle and foot traffic should be withheld from a sodded area until the sod is rooted and established. This could take anywhere from 1 to 2 months depending on the season and site-specific factors. The picture in the slide is an example of damage to sodded fine fescue from a mower shortly following establishment. Even though the sod might be well watered, driving on the sod during high heat can still be problematic and cause death. Also, herbicides should only be applied to well-established and actively growing sod. This table is a basic guide to determine the amount of sod that can be transported with specific vehicles. Please take a moment to review this table. Generally, a half-ton pickup or smaller vehicle can carry 1 pallet or less of sod, assuming 450 square feet per pallet. A 1-ton truck can transport 3 to 4 pallets, and a 2-ton truck can transport 6 to 7 pallets. 10-wheel and 18-wheel truck and trailer systems can transport 10 or more pallets in a single load. Keep in mind that the moisture status of the sod will have a large bearing on the amount of sod that can be transported. Dry sod weighs roughly 20 to 25 pounds per square yard, and wet sod might weigh 30 to 40 pounds. Big roll sod is quite popular for larger sodding projects. Big roll sod is harvested and planted with specialized equipment, and it cannot be installed by hand. Typical measurements of big roll sods are 42 to 48 inches wide with a length up to 100 feet. This enables the planting of a 400-foot square area with a single roll that might weigh 2,000 pounds or more. To summarize this lesson on sodding roadsides, keep in mind that sodding has many benefits, but the disadvantages must also be considered when beginning a new project. Additionally, sod used for installation on roadsides should be grown from certified seed or through the Sod Quality Assurance Program. Although corners are often cut during the soil preparation process for new sod projects, soil preparation for sod should be identical to that of seeding. Many sodding failures are related to a lack of pre-sodding soil preparation. Additionally, follow the proper sod installation procedures and post-sodding care guidelines discussed in this module for successful establishment of sod on roadsides. Thank you for viewing Module 5 on sodding roadsides. In Module 6, we will discuss the principles and practices of mowing turfgrass in roadside settings.